wild card here. I'm not sure if we have Kevin White from Cameroon or Kevin Intelligence.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Hey,
what's up,
Patrick,
Kevin?
good to see you, man.
How's it going, man? Good to see you.
Patrick and I have had exchanges over. Yeah, we're friendly on LinkedIn and other places.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
good to see you,
yeah,
Patrick.
yeah. Likewise, big common room fan over here.
Well, Patrick, the questions keep coming and we haven't addressed all of them, but we've got to stop doing this and probably host another session with you on a separate event. What's the best way to support you, your agency, Clay? For
Yeah,
sure.
I would say just give Clay a try. Sign up for an account and just play around with it. That's really the best way to know the tool. And yeah, feel free to just follow me on LinkedIn. I post a lot about Clay. It's pretty much the majority of what I talk about day to day, and I think it's an exciting space to follow. But appreciate it,
Thank you.
guys. Have a good one.
Kevin, signal-based pipe gen.
All right. Yeah, it's a tough following Patrick. He's got really great LinkedIn content, and I'm a big fan of Patrick and Clay also. Um, so I have okay. Maybe I'll draw on uh you, Julia, and Justin of just like how to format this. So I've got like I'm trying not to make too much presentation time. So I've got like 10 minutes of presentation. I also want to do like a pretty like in-depth fun demo, and then leave some time for questions at the end. Is that like generally a good format?
Perfect.
Cool. Okay, so I will just dive right into the presentation side of things if I can figure this out. There we go. Okay, you can see my screen, yes? My
Yep.
face. Okay, cool. So uh, so great to be here. This is the second time I'm doing one of these events with the HSE team, and my name's Kevin. I lead the marketing team and also the SDR team, which is a different topic in itself. But I lead both teams at Common Room. Kind of view ourselves as the pipeline engine for the company. In my talk today is around AI prospecting methods, and it should be a good segue from what Patrick just talked about into like these micro personalized campaigns and how to do that at scale. It was like one of the last questions that came up, so seems like really good sequencing here. The place I want to start at is just the problem with personalization today, or like what's been historically known as personalization, or what you maybe think about is like, to be frank, just like shitty emails like this. I feel like we get these every day. They're obvious. They all are about what's in it for me as the sender, and not about what's in it for the recipient. And they add not a lot of value, and I would argue that they offer or that they are harmful to both the sender and your brand reputation. And one interesting thing is that AI is exceptionally great at doing this, which is in the sense of it creates highly scaled, lightly personalized outbound messages that are commoditized. And by commoditized, I mean it's using data inputs to get a bad output, which is the data inputs are just like what's scrapable on LinkedIn. It's like what where do they work, all this commoditized data, and so like what we want to get at is something that's a little bit better than that. I essentially see like AI using AI for this approach that we all think is like we know is kind of dead, the predictable revenue playbook approach, as being like this way to scale a spam cannon, which we know doesn't work. And so I think we all don't want to like we've experienced these types of emails. We don't want to live in this world anymore. So all this begs the question of, what does a good email look like then? And so I've crafted what I think is a pretty good outbound message here. And it does a few things differently from the previous example. It calls out someone of importance at the top. It references a company priority that has been researched. It shows the receipts in the form of a quote from the stakeholder. It shows that the person on the other end did the homework, like they know what's going on in the business of the recipient. And then it ties a pretty strong educated guess to a pain points. And so in short, I feel like this type of email is helpful and not self-serving. And so how do you like, I'll go back. How do we get to this email? And I really like this new phrase. I also grew up with micro machines. So like this is the AI generated version of micro campaigns. So this is a phrase that I'll give credit to Brendan Short, who's also a really great follow on LinkedIn. He kind of at least I heard about this term from him, and it's essentially like the way that you get to these good emails is creating micro campaigns. And so what is a micro campaign? Let's define this real quick. And to me, it's a small, highly targeted list of prospects or accounts, like call it 50 to 200. They're generated using a very specific trigger or signal, if you will, combined with some criteria. So it could be like there's a hiring spree going on in that company, or there could be they're moving to a new location, or these types of things that are like moments in time. And that brings me to like the last point of what a micro campaign is. Like they're usually like short. They have a short half-life because like it's essentially a signal that this company or this person is in market for something, and like that time period is probably like 30 to 60 days. And so when you have all these things, then you can create that gives you the baseline to create a really good email like this. And so essentially like what AI can do and where AI can help is like we can define the audience with AI and with software, and then fill in the blanks of these different areas where there's like the brackets and like your value prop and stuff like that. And so this is like actually what I'm going to go in and build today as part of the demo, which should be fun. But there's a few things that I wanted to cover before like going directly into a demo of Common Room. So let's also start with like the areas that like what AI needs to do to help to get to this qualify, like really strong outbound message that should convert. And so the things here that the bar that we need to hit is the data points that we need to hit to get to this message is we need to do research. We need to like dig into articles or different things, different signals that are happening within a company or at the person level. We need to identify the signals that we're getting from those companies. It could be a website visit. It could be they're opening new roles in a region. We need to find the right stakeholders once we have that information. Like so, not only is this thing happening, this priority happening at this company, but like who is the person who's the stakeholder that is driving that motion, or it's like the person that is responsible for that outcome. Then we need to like personalize a message combining all of those things. What's the signal? Who's the prospect? And like what message should we send to them that they will care about and react to? And then you need to be able to like action that. You need to be able to send them an email, call them up on the phone with that context, send them a LinkedIn message. You need to like do some sort of action. Like this is kind of like the end-to-end prospecting workflow that AI can certainly help out with, and it can help you scale these like really good emails. And so I guess I kind of already covered this, but like these are the things that like check. AI can help out with all these things. And I used to have this slide I used to have would say the AI can be a co-pilot of doing all these things, but actually it's becoming much more like the in vogue word is agentic now. So you can almost have the AI go out and like do these things for you and kind of like serve up these audiences on a platter, suggest personalized copy to use for outbound messaging versus like you typing it in. So AI is doing actually a lot more of the work here, and that's also some of what I'm going to share in the demo. So almost time for me to jump in there, like not too much more presentation left, but I wanted to share like a few concepts or prerequisites, if you will, in order to make this whole thing work. And the first thing I like to highlight is just the concept of quality data in equals quality data out. And so in other words, you need to train your model with quality inputs. That is like buying signals and also the personas behind those buying signals for the AI to use. And this is really, really key to making sure that you don't just get like the generic commoditized data to train the model, which ends up in the spam can. We don't want to end up in that area at all. And so this is some stuff that Common Room, we pride ourselves at Common Room, like what we do is one is capture these really interesting bespoke signals that are much more strong in terms of buying intent than just your typical like, oh, I looked up your alma mater on LinkedIn and also saw that you changed jobs recently or something like that. There's a lot more signal and a lot more input that you should be feeding into both the account and the prospect level. And this is the quality data that you can use to personalize outbound at scale in an effective way. Also, I don't know if we can link this in the notes here, but I often get the question of like, okay, what signal should I start with? Like what signal should we capture? And so I created this resource that people tend to like, which is 100 signals that you can use. So we can share this, or you can just go to this URL. I think it still works. And this is a great starting point to see like, oh, here are all the different inputs that we could consider that we want to capture to power our, personalized outbound or prospecting motion. Okay, and then the other last thing here, as a prerequisite is not only do you need to know the signals, like the inputs, the triggers that are happening at the account and person level, but you need to like unify all of those into a single user profile and then roll that up into a single account. So when you're looking at the account level, you have this holistic view of like, here's all the people from this account who have visited our website. Here are all the people in this account who are using our product or are engaging with our CEO on social channels, or have changed jobs recently, or are former product users. And so when you can aggregate all this into one place, it essentially is a repository of the data foundation, if you will. That's why I have the mountains here. It's like this, the data foundation for the AI to do its job. You have that all in one place, and it's unified so that you're not getting these like one-off weird unpersonalized AI spam cannon type things. And so so those are the prerequisites. And now let's kind of like jump into Common Room to show how you can do this in a demo. So I'm going to stop slideshow presentation here. And Julie, can you see this screen here? My Common Room. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to start at the end here a little bit in Common Room. So here we have, these are essentially like packaged up, let's call it micro campaigns for the sake of this talk. And so here we have pricing page visits from economic buyers in the last 28 days. We're packaging all this up with pulling in signals via AI and then putting in these prospects, if you will, on a platter for an SDR team or someone to like reach out to these people. So, you can do this at scale, send them to an outreach sequence. And like that is essentially like a workbench or like a prioritized view for reps to go through their day. But to get to the example that I was sharing more in the deck, in the presentation, you can stack rank all these too. But we have this view here of it's an org view, it's an account view with SDR roles that are open in Europe. And let's hope that this loads here. There we go. And so from here, I might want to do a little bit more research and personalization. So I can click on any given account here. Let's click on Amplitude. And then from here, I can say, okay, here's all the context. Here's this like unified view of what's happening within Amplitude. As a rep, I might want to like get this context to personalize an outbound email. But let's say like, okay, because we know that they're already in this micro campaign, like we know Amplitude has open roles in the SDR, with SDR in the title in Europe. Then we can just craft that personalized email. And so I can click on contacts here and see which of the contacts that I might want to reach out to. We don't have different filters here. Like this is just all the contacts that we know we found signal on from Amplitude. So I can add another filter here for say, make sure that we're reaching to an economic buyer. Pretty powerful stuff. And then, maybe Jessica looks good or Francis looks good. I can click into Jessica. I can see that unified view of all of her signals and what activity we found on Jessica. And then this is kind of like the magic AI part. We can click on this, generate a message for me based on these signals. And as you can see here, it looks like you have 23 open roles in Europe. Exciting times. And then we kind of, it's not the perfect email like I shared before because Common Room doesn't have like a GDPR like specific type of thing, but you can start to see that you get to this point of personalization where you create these really specific bespoke emails, and you can like emails or outbound messages, and you can send that at scale. Okay, so and also I wanted to share that you can also like add this to outreach too. It's not just generating a message you have to like copy and paste. Okay, so the question is like, how do we get to this? How do we get to that generated message, and how do we get to this micro campaign audience? And so that's where kind of like the power of aggregating all these signals into one place and then unifying the identity or the filling in, like doing the waterfall enrichment behind the scenes with AI is what Common Room does, and where you can like actually filter down to the specific micro campaign. So as I click on this view of organizations, we have the same thing for, contacts and organization objects. So contacts would be, we found signal on this person. Organizations are, we found signal on this organization, like they're hiring or they're moving to a different region or something like that. But you can see here we have 57,000 organizations in this view, which is, information overload. You want to narrow this down to the specific micro campaign so that the AI can like do its thing on top of that specific cohort of organizations. So to do that, we can add all these filters on both the criteria of the accounts we're looking for and the signal that we're seeing from those accounts. So I'm going to say add filter here, and I'm actually going to create a filter group, which is multiple filters in one thing. I think you get the point as I go through this, but I'm going to click on organizations here, and I'm going to say, so we want to see organizations who have open SDR roles. And so I'm going to click on add filter here, and there's this menu item of like all the different things you can filter by, but it's nicer to type things in versus trying to find them on this list. So I'm going to say title, job title listing is any of SDR. I'm going to select all of these. And I'm going to add another one for sales development. Job title listing is sales development. I'll do that. And then maybe let's add another one for business development or BDR. Business dev. We have some of them already showing up there. Cool. And then I'm going to apply this filter. When we apply that, we'll see this number of organizations go down to only those with a job opening that has this title in it. There's 357, still a little bit too high for a micro campaign here. We just added some new UI improvements, and I'm seeing a little bit of like a off thing here, but I'm just being nitpicky about our product. So that's what you're seeing here. It's just a little bit of UI issue. But the other thing we want to do is click on this is to add that they're hiring for these roles in a specific region, because that region is also compelling to the person we're reaching out to who's like hiring in that region. So to do that, we can add another filter here for the we'll call it like a news category. And so we'll look at this is like a grouping of like all the announcements and public data from this company that's announced externally. So we have grouped these into like AI groups these into like different cohorts of actions that are happening, like fundraising, or they're hiring, or they're expanding offices into somewhere. So let's choose those. So I'm going to say expands offices in, expands offices to, opens new location, increases headcount, expands facilities. Now, just that alone is not interesting because it could be in any region. We haven't specified on the region yet. So I want to narrow this list down even further to the specific region. I can do that with this, which is, we call it a conditional filter. So I'm going to add another filter to this, which is news keyword, and just say anything that any of these news mentions that include keywords like Europe, for say like GDPR compliance, or London. I think the Dublin is a hotbed for SDRs. I'll do Germany, Netherlands, and I think you kind of get the point. Just keep on. You can continue adding more and more here to cover the areas of Europe that you're interested in. I'm going to say apply conditional filter, and then from here we get this organization list down to 1. Usually it's a little bit higher. I probably just didn't include enough things here. And then the next thing that we can do is not only do we want to see the number of job listings open for SDR, we want to see like the quantity. We can kind of see the quantity here, but to create this specific field that is mentioned, I should go back. I'll go back to it and show you how, like, where it's mentioned in the next as I like go through more of the demo here. But you can create this number of SDR roles open through an advanced feature called calculated fields. And so to do that, we can say we can create a new custom field, and we'll say like SDR roles open. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Role openings. And then we'll say calculated next, and we'll say job listings, and then you can define that same criteria that we had. So we can say job listing title is SDR, and then we can save this. That'll create this new field. I'm not going to save it now because I've already created it. And what that will get you is to a place where you'll get this number of SDR roles open. I can click into this and just validate that, these are the SDR roles that Amplitude has open. And so once we get to this place, we can save this as a micro campaign, which is what is then showing here And then we get to this place of like, okay, we're whoever owns these 23 accounts, we're gonna have them like go in and create those really bespoke emails via AI using that calculated field that we just created. And then the last thing I wanted to show is like, okay, how do we actually use the right prompts to get that output of the email? And so we have this feature, we call it Rumi AI. And I created this prompt here for this HSE demo. And here you can see that we're using this custom field. We want the AI to reference this field that we just created, which is that they have 23 open SDR roles. And we have a lot of other prompting here that you can use so that the AI can look at this prompt and create the kind of message that you want, that like really quality message that I shared in the presentation. And then also shout out to, we have a prompt library. If you go to Common Room and you want some prompts, like this prompt here is inspired by our prompt library that you can just copy and paste and use these for your own prompts, whether it's in Common Room or somewhere else. And so once you have this prompt, then you can kind of connect all the dots for this micro campaign. And we can get to this place where I showed in the initial demo. So the thing I wanted to highlight is here, we have this SDR roles open, that 23 number here. And then the more magic is when you go to outbound to this person and you reference that specific like data point that was calculated. And you can see here that it says, looks like you have 23 open SDR roles in Europe. And that's like the hyper personalized, like specific micro campaign thing to call out in addition to this other context here. And so, hopefully that ties together all the kind of things that need to happen in order to send these kind of like really quality messages at scale. Yeah, it's really cool to see that like you can do all this in one platform, and like these things are all becoming possible now. So I'll pause there and we can take questions for the next 5 or so.
Really love the holistic approach here, Kevin, and the educational aspect, and generally that you can do it all together in one platform. We have a question from Russell Sherwin, and the question is, see similarities in your messaging with Ample Market. How do you compare or contrast your offering with them and others?
Yeah, I mean, we get this question a lot because like the good thing about being in this market is that there's just like tons of competition. Or I don't know if it's a good thing, but it validates that there's an actual market here. And so we see companies like Ample Market or Koala or Unified GTM come up a lot. I would say like the thing that I always go back to is more of these foundations of what Common Room does really well. And so there's the two things that are these prerequisites are mostly differentiated from, or I mean, I would say 100% differentiated from a lot of the companies out there. I would say the breadth of our signal capture, things like open source signals, job change signals, product data signals. These are things that a lot of other vendors don't offer this like full suite or full spectrum of signals. I know Ample Market does offer certain things like LinkedIn data and maybe like job change data, but not the full breadth of these, tons and tons of signals. And I think that's really key to like be able to pull in everything together so that you can kind of get like a full holistic lay of the land of like what buying signals accounts are people are showing. And then the other part that is often differentiated in Common Room is this identity resolution piece. So it's not only knowing the signals, but like if the signals are all siloed, or they're like, this is one signal from one user with this unique handle or unique identifier, and you can't connect the dots to like this other signal with this other unique identifier, so that you can consolidate all the signals into one persona or one account. That piece, we call it identity resolution, is actually really challenging to do. And so we have invested a ton of R&D into doing that at the forefront. And so typically, like, we're really good at that match rate and identity resolution, which is really key to being able to execute these types of micro campaigns.
Next question. What's an example of AI helping a team 10x their GTM output?
So I don't know if this is 10x, but it's pretty high. So this customer story that we have with SemGrep, Jason is actually a person who I worked with at Segments, and we essentially started like back in the day, we were building these micro campaigns off of product data and using Tableau and all these tools that are not super optimized for this. But he kind of like was trained on this background of, identifying these triggers and signals and then like using them to do outbound effectively. And so what his team at SemGrip is doing, he's the SDR team lead there. And they're running 6 different signal-based plays, from open source signals, from product signals, from signals on LinkedIn. And the way that they 10x it is their methodology, which is essentially like, okay, we have this really strong hypothesis of, these product-led signals are the signals that we want to start with because they're like closest to the end of the buying funnel. And those are the highest converting. And so we're going to run different plays and validate those plays through our SDR team. And then once we feel like we've optimized those signals, then they're going into other external signals, like open source signals, because they're an open source developer tooling company. And then they're running that same kind of like growth experiment methodology and stacking those different plays on top of each other. And so what Jason and team have done is I think that they've 15 different signal-based plays, and they just keep on like running that same playbook over and over again to get like really, really strong pipeline returns because they're doing it in this systematic and scaled way. And so like, I think that methodology is a way to 10x versus, trying to like do everything at once, or like there's no magic bullets and they're just doing things the right way. And they're able to predictably scale by doing that. So I would read this story and use that as a blueprint for, how to get the most pipeline and revenue out of this approach.
Super cool. Question from Claudia. Can Common Room help identify prospects, for example, find certain companies based on certain criteria, for example, industry, location, etc.?
Yeah, I didn't really get into this in the demo, but we do have the ability to use all of our filters and enrichments to identify different prospects based on like all sorts of different types of criteria. And so one really cool use case for this actually to automate it is we run this play and our customers run this play is like we'll see an account that's visiting our website that's in our identified like target account list. But we don't know the person behind it at sometimes because like we don't have like identity IP address information on that person or whatever. And so we'll track that as a signal on the account level, like, oh, this account visited your website. And then we'll call this prospecting tool as an automation to say like, okay, within this account, here are the people who are most likely to be visiting our website and care about our value prop or whatever. And then we'll prospect those people. And then we'll also build an outbound automation to those people as well. And so the combination of being able to get an account signal and then prospect is something that Common Room does. And it's also a super powerful way to automate things.
Another question. Have clients in the CRE industry used your products?
I'm actually not familiar with the CRE industry. I will say though that the best fit customers for us right now are the ones that have a lot of signal. And so that is oftentimes the ones like the customers like SemGrip, which have, open source and product led signals. Like this is just like a wealth of signal that you can use. If you have lots of website visits or if you have a strong LinkedIn presence or social presence, that's another source of signal. And so that's typically where we find companies have like a lot of success. And it tends to be these like open source companies, product led companies, or companies that have like a sales led approach, but lots of awareness and other signals that are generating across different breadcrumbs across the internet.
Trying to select the last question here. So what's the key to turning unified signals into actionable insights for teams?
Okay, so this is more to me of a marketing question of like, our go-to-market strategy question, which is like, what's the key to making signals work? And I think it's having empathy. Like having empathy for the end user is the key to all of this. Is like if you put yourself in the other person's shoes and you understand what their pain points are, then you can figure out what signals are they showing that infer that they're experiencing those pain points, and then reach out to them in a way that's like, here, I'm here to be helpful and solve those pain points. So I think about it more from like a first principles point of view. And to me, it all comes down to empathy and understanding your audience.
Thank you so much, Kevin. This has been a blast. We shared your repository of signals in the
Awesome.
HSC Slack. What else? Any updates? Where should our people go?
Oh, I have this slide here. follow me on LinkedIn. I'm talking and posting about this stuff quite a lot. I do a lot of like live demos via Loom to show new features and like cool use cases. And so that's pretty much it. And then also we have a free trial of Common Room. Anyone here that signs up and mentions my name or mentions the event here or HSC, I can extend that trial to 30 days for you, no prob. So be sure to like mention that when you're filling out the form to sign up. So I appreciate everyone and thanks so much, team.